Okay.
اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه. شكرا. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم عليه. نحمده ونصلي على رسول النبي الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قال الله تعالى في شان حبيبي إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا مولانا محمد طب القلوب ودوائها وعافية الأبدان وشفائها ونور الأبصار وضيائها وعلى آله وصحبه دائما أبدا صلاة وسلاما عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. Today will be a little different than what we've been talking about. I was asked to talk about Imam Mehdi alayhi salam and Isa alayhi salam, which are, signs of the end time. The coming back of Isa alayhi salam and the coming of Imam Mehdi alayhi salam. It's a common topic these days, end time eschatology or signs of the end time. Rasulullah ﷺ did not predict anything. He prophesied. And there's a huge difference. In predicting, you can be wrong or right. In prophecy, this is something that is absolute. People think that Nostradamus prophesied things. He didn't prophesize anything. If you read his so-called prophecies, they're like horoscopes. He would say vague things and you can make it mean anything later on. And so people say, oh, see, he said this would happen. But if you look at what he actually said, you could make it say anything. Rasulullah Sallallahu prophecies were very specific. They weren't just generalities or vagaries. To give you an example of this, he said in one of his narrations, he said that, when the clock cast its shadow upon the Kaaba, then prepare yourself for the end. And we look today with the clock tower. People used to think, because the word was sa'a, which can be used as time or it can be used as clock. But to say that when time casts its shadow, then prepare for time. The meaning here, of course, is the clock, and we know that the largest clock tower in the world is in Mecca now. And if you look at it, it casts a shadow upon the Kaaba during the day. And so many very specific things that he talked about. Also an example that he said that my grandson would be martyred in Taf. Taf, of course, is the old name for Karbala. And so we know that Imam Hussein alayhi salam was martyred in Karbala. And so, what he said was very specific, to the point, and kind of gives us basically everything to know about what's to come. If we know how to read it and what he's saying, if we know the background to what he's saying. And this is why history is also important, because history repeats itself, and if you look back, then you can see what is coming, and it makes it easier to understand what Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is telling us. So all of these things, kind of give us an understanding of what is coming. It's very hard for me to talk in this format because I'm kind of talking into this blank box, which makes it hard for me because my mind goes blank as well. Inshallah, I'll learn from this and kind of figure out how to do all of this. But when we look at all of these prophecies, and even like when we look at the prophecy, we look at what's known as Hadith Jibreel, where Jibreel alayhi salam came to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and asked him a few questions. And one of the last question was, "Tell me about the hour." And he said that the questioned or the questioner knows as much as the question, meaning which essentially means that that I can't tell them. So he said, "But I can tell you signs." He said, "Then tell us signs of the hour." And one of the signs that he said was that the naked, barefoot, destitute Bedouins will build lofty buildings. And if we look at what's going on in the Middle East, they have the tallest buildings in the world. And who's building them? The people that yesterday, were destitute and had nothing, walking around barefooted and naked. And today they think themselves as kings. So again, the prophecies are very specific. But he also, with the things to come, he told us about the fitna. And he said that, I see the fitna or the turmoil raining upon your houses, like, literally rain coming down upon your houses, that the fitna is raining upon your houses. And we look today with all of these radio waves and frequency waves and wave and satellite waves and all of these coming down upon our houses. And what are they producing other than fitna? We look at the fitna of Dajjal. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said that the fitna of Dajjal is that he will mix falsehood with the truth, which has been going on, from the beginning. But the difference is that he will take it to the next level. So today, if you get on the internet, it's hard to tell what's real and what's not. You're bombarded with so much disinformation, which is raining into our houses, that people get confused and stay confused, unfortunately. Or you waste so much time, like we waste, we get on the TV, we get on, Netflix or whatever else, and the whole week is spent, and we accomplish nothing other than wasting our time. And so this is the rain that is coming down upon us. when he talked about Imam Mehdi alayhi salam, there are certain things that are going to happen before that. When we look at, he said that, there would be the Great War, the Malhama. So when we look at that, this great war that will come before Imam Mehdi, he talked about, the mountain of gold that will be unearthed at the Euphrates. And oil is what? It's black gold. And he said that the war will occur because of that, and the invading army will come, and then the Muslims will align themselves with the Romans, meaning the Christians. You'll have this alignment between the two. And so then, the invading army will be destroyed or defeated. And then there will be a war between the Muslims and the Christians. And a lot of people, think that America is a Christian country, which it's not. It's a secular country. There are other countries, such as Russia, that are truly Christian countries. But then there will be a battle between the Muslims and the Christians. And the Christians will defeat the Muslims. And, a very bitter defeat. And as time goes on, there will be no place in the world that will be safe for the believers. The only places that will be somewhat safe for the believers will be Makkah and Medina Munawwara. And so every place else, the Muslims will be outcast, tortured, looked upon as everything other than society. And we see that starting today. I mean, it's been going on, but we see the acceleration of that today. Hudhayfa bin Yaman used to ask the Rasulullah about the tribulations and the hardships come. And then he also asked him, he said, if I find myself at that time, then what do I do? And Rasulullah told him that if you have land, you stay with that. And if you have animals, you stay with your animals. Which is interesting because, in today's lockdown, if you look at this, in the way they're doing this lockdown in many countries, the people that are living in the villages are having an easier time than the people living in the cities. Not that they're not having a hard time, but it's somewhat less difficult for them than it is for those who are living in the cities. We see the attitude toward the Muslims. Every Muslim is looked upon as a terrorist. So again, all of this is going to get much, much worse. And then the big war will happen. And the Muslims will literally have no leader. Not that we have any true leader right now, but at that time, not even the remnants of a leader will be there. There'll be a war between fighting factions of trying to take power. And this is, of course, when this army will come from Khurasan. And will defeat, the leaders of Hind and chain them and then bring the leaders to him. But irregardless, this will be his army. And so this, and he at this point, they will reach Medina Munawwara, and he will be declared as a terrorist, and an army will be sent against him. And the thing is, again, here Rasulullah is very specific. Imam Mehdi alayhi salam, the description that is given of him, his name will not be Mehdi. His name will be the name of Rasulullah. So his name will be Muhammad. His father's name will be the name of the father of Rasulullah. So his father's name will be Abdullah. And he will not be simply from Quraysh. He will not simply be from Banu Hashim of Quraysh. But he will be from the lineage of Rasulullah himself. On his father's side, he will be from the household of Imam Hassan al-Islam, and then on his mother's side, he will be from the household of Imam Hussein al-Salam. And so at this point, though, he will not have declared himself a leader. He does not even want the leadership. You know? But the people, when his army will come and he will be declared as this terrorist, and an army will be 12,000 flags, you know, and under each flag will be men. And when they will march, Imam Mehdi al-Islam will leave Medina and he will go to Makkah. Which is also interesting because when the army of Yazid came to attack Medina Munawwara, the people of Medina Munawwara went to the wife of Rasulullah, Bibi Salma, radiallahu anha, and asked her, is this that army? You know, that Rasulullah told us about. And she will say, no, this is not that army. But when he comes to Makkah, and he will be sitting there at the Kaaba reciting the Quran, the people will recognize who he is. And then they will take him to the outskirts of the city and force him to take allegiance. Khalifa. You know, here people forget what Khalifa even means. You know, Khalifa is the servant of the creation. He is truly the servant of Allah. And out of his service to Allah, he serves the creation of Allah. The Khalifa's purpose is to stamp out oppression, both physical and spiritual. You know, the physical oppression ends when you die. But if you're spiritually oppressed, then the results of that continue on into the next life. And so the purpose of the Khalifa is to stamp out oppression in all its forms. And so he will be a true Khalifa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so when they give him allegiance, and then he will march out with the army, and the army will fight against this other army that's been sent. And when the fighting starts, you know, a third of his army will run away, whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will never forgive them. A third of them will be martyrs, who will be counted among the best of martyrs. And the other third will go on to be victorious. But the victory will come because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will command the earth to open up. So there will be an earthquake that opens up and swallows the opposing army. And when this happens, all of the Abdal, these are the religious police in Sham and Iraq and all throughout the world, they will recognize that this is truly the Mehdi. And they will come and give allegiance to him. And then he will take this army and they will proceed to Constantinople, you know, modern day Istanbul. You know, the name was changed because. And so when he goes and they will open up Constantinople, but he will not fight Constantinople with his arms. He will go and he will say takbir and the walls will fall and he will enter the city. And this is when they reach the city and his army relaxes, this is when Dajjal will appear in his physical form. And we see all of this, you know, getting ready for the coming of Dajjal. And so then he will manifest himself, and he will travel the world and everybody will start accepting him, and those who oppose him, you know, will have increased difficulties. And so this is when Imam Mehdi will march from there and Isa al-Islam will return. Isa al-Islam will descend upon the dome or the minaret of a masjid in Damascus. And he will come down with his arms resting on the shoulders of two angels. You know, the droplets of dew running down the locks of his hair. And he will come and he will descend upon that, and then he'll ask the people for a ladder. And the people will say, you know, why do you need a ladder? You know, you've come all this way without anything, and now you're asking for a ladder. He will tell them that this is the world of cause and effect, and I must use the cause or the means to get down. From here, he will gather an army and they will march, and then the army of Imam Mehdi and Isa al-Islam will both join forces. And this is, and then it will be late and it will be time for Salat. And Imam Mehdi al-Islam will ask Isa al-Islam to lead the Salat. And Isa al-Islam will say no. You say, you are the one to lead the Salat because you are from the lineage of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This will also emphasize the fact that he is not, even though he is a Nabi, he is a Rasul, but he is not returning in that capacity. He is returning in the capacity of being the Ummati, being the follower of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so then they will fight Dajjal, and when Dajjal sees, and in a place called Lud, which actually is right outside of Tel Aviv, modern day Tel Aviv today, when Dajjal sees Isa al-Islam, he will dissolve like salt into water, and he will be destroyed. Which is also interesting because Dajjal will not be raised up on the day of judgment. Shaitan will be raised and questioned on the day of judgment. Dajjal will not. The Dajjal is made for that purpose. Dajjal does not become Dajjal through a process. He is sent as Dajjal. Whereas Shaitan became Shaitan through the process, like we talked about before, when we talked about Adam alayhi salam. So Dajjal will not be questioned because that was his purpose. But it is for us, to deal with the fitna. Again, Rasulullah SAW prophesied all these things, but he didn't simply tell us that these tribulations and trials are to come without giving us the way out, without giving us the solution to all of this. Because and the hadith in which he gives us the solution, according to the companions of Rasulullah SAW, is the most important hadith. Not only the most important hadith, they said that when they heard this, nothing ever made them more happy than hearing this hadith, which is in Sahih Bukhari, where one of the companions comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he asks him, he says, Ya Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when is the hour? Which tells us many things. One is that we know, okay, this is an important question because the companion is asking Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it also tells us that the belief of the companions was that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam knew. I don't go to a first grader and ask him a calculus question because I know he doesn't know. If I need an answer to a calculus question, I go to somebody who knows calculus. And so when the companion asked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he's telling us that in his aqidah, his belief, he knows that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam knows. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam doesn't say to him, I don't know, why are you asking me? But he answers the question with a more crucial question. He answered the question of when is the hour by asking him, what have you prepared for it? Because the hour doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when it is if you're not ready. If it's tomorrow or 10 years or 100 years or 5,000 years from now, if you're not ready, then what does it matter? And our personal hour begins when we die anyway. And again, if we're not ready for death, then what does it matter? So when Rasulullah SAW asked this crucial question, the companion answered by saying, Ya Rasulullah SAW, I don't have a lot of salat or sadaqah or good deeds in my account. But I love Allah and His Messenger. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And so Rasulullah responds to him by saying, Al-maru man ahabba. Why do you worry? The lover will be with the one that he loves. And so when the companions heard this, they said that nothing made them more elated than this. Because this was the key and the answer to everything. This was the key that unlocks all the doors, including the door of Jannah. This is the key to answer to solve all our problems. It is the love of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so we get upset. We get, these things are happening and all of these things, but we forget what we're supposed to do. We forget that in order to solve the problems of our lives, the one answer is to love Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as they should be loved. And if we do this, then nothing else matters. That solves all the questions of what is to come. If we do this, then when Imam Mehdi al-Islam comes, we will be ready to accept him and greet him. If we do this, then the fitna of Dajjal will not affect us. All of our uncertainties will be resolved. But how many of us do this? We're so busy. We do the lip service part. Yeah, we love Allah and His Messenger, but are we willing to die for that love?